Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television, and it is that newspaper segment again where we bring you all the refreshing headlines from the topmost newspapers in the country. And as usual, we would begin with the Daily Trust. And on the front page of the Daily Trust this morning is servings from the biggest political happenings in the country in the last 24 hours. And the headline here reads, "At peace accord signing, don't fight dirty," Buhari tells Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, and others. We are at critical stage, Jonathan. Fake news, misinformation, threats to poll, Abdulsalami. We will monitor candidates, party conduct, spendings. This is according to INEC. And the major photographs on the front page there have the leading candidate in the forthcoming presidential election. We have their former Vice President Abubakar Atiku to the left. We have Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and standing in for the presidential candidate of the APC is Shatima. And we have Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso of the NNPP, if I'm not mistaken. And we also have a picture there of members of the Peace Committee and the presidential flag bearers. And looking deeply, I think I can see the Sultan of Sokoto, the IGP, Abdulsalami Abubakar, the INEC chairman, His Eminence Cardinal Onaikon, and a host of other dignitaries there on the front page. And directly below the name marks, we have Yobe North. Lawan's bows signals end of 24-year journey in National Assembly. What a journey. What a journey. You'll find the details of that on page 24. IU bribed us with millions, 6 PDP National Working Committee members allege. You find that on page 6. And Nigerian Air questions doubt as FG unveils Ethiopian Airline as core investors. You want the details of that? Please open up to page 20 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Also on the editor's page, governors reject FG's plan to privatize 5 power plants. India tops importation of Nigerian goods in Q2 2022. You'll find the details of that on page 18. And father remanded for attempting to sell daughter for 20 million in Benue. Wow, what poverty can really cost. These are the major servings on the front page of the Daily Trust this morning.
Very quite interesting stories. Let's take a sneak peek into the Punch newspaper this morning to see what that paper is saying this morning. And the lead story there on the Punch says APC presidential campaign, Tinubu to pacify Adamu, governors with 2,000 appointments. And then the writers there say party disowns leaked letter, denies one-man show allegation against candidate, aggrieved NWC members, nominees added to campaign list, Onanuga explains exclusion. That story is on page 2 on the Punch newspaper. And then right below that, you're going to see quite a number of stakeholders in a group picture there. Tinubu absent, Atiku others sign peace pact. Buhari demands non-violent polls. And you'd find other stories as well. Adeleke wins at Supreme Court, hometown PDP celebrate. 2 feared dead in RTEN clash. Sanwo-Olu suspends union. And on page 17, 3 EFCC lawyers, 59 others make SAN list. And right at the top on the Punch newspaper, on page 21, power sector loses 420 billion annual revenue. And this is according to Gencos. PDP NWC members Bright Ayu reject housing allowance. And you see also a business story there that tells you economists forecast Naira slide inflation as campaigns begin. Reps raise the alarm over possible Ebola outbreak. Well, that's no good news. I hope that we would find a way to cushion that before it breaks out. And then you see the story about ASU, federal government makes fresh offer. ASU insists on UTES, and that story is on page 14 on the Punch newspaper. These are some of the major highlights on the Punch.
We move on to the Nation's newspaper, and we have there as the major story, scandal rocks PDP National Working Committee as members return 122.4 million. Interesting. Arak Baja, Obi Adagundo, FR Ato rejects strange rent stipends. Outrage over curious payment. Party cash meant for chieftains' housing allowance. I don't know what we're still doing in the studios. There seems to be more money in politics. And then we have, of course, pictures from yesterday's peace accord done in the front page of the Nation newspaper. And right below it, we have no rift over APC campaign council, says spokesman. Party chair candidate on the same page. 2023, Buhari Abdulsalami worried over spread of fake news. Party's presidential candidates signed peace accord. And right there above the name marks, we have 62 lawyers are now SANS, Shitu, Oyedepo, Tairu on the list. Developing countries facing currency depreciation. This is according to Malpass, the World Bank president. Makinde, Autumn, inaugurate 110-kilometer road, and Supreme Court upholds Adeleke's nomination. You'll find the details of this on page 4 and page 2, respectively. These are the major offerings on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Okay, let's take a look at some more stories this morning on this Nigeria. 2023, you have to be impartial. Buhari charges judges to maintain transparency in pre-post-election matters. Commissions benches ultra-modern edifice. And then you see there President Muhammadu Buhari and the governor of Rivers State, Newsom Wike, exchanging pleasantries at the inauguration of the Body of Benches complex in Abuja yesterday. Atiku, Obi, others signed Peace Pact. Tinubu's deputy Shatima stands in. And then you see the story about NDLEA cautions on use of drugs during campaigns. PDP, 6 NWC members refund over 100 million naira after unaccounted 10 billion naira mess. Money meant for house rent, not bribe. This is according to the party. And then right at the top on this Nigeria this morning, Nigeria free fall continues. Now exchanges at 737 naira per dollar. That's huge. Well, these are some of the major stories on this Nigeria.
We move straight to Blueprint newspaper and still staying with the political activities. At party's peace accord, Buhari, Abdulsalami, Jonathan harps on issue-based campaigns. Urges politicians to see 2023 as opportunity to further national unity. We will monitor parties' compliance with campaign spending, according to INEC. And Tinubu, IU absent, Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso, others sign. You'll find the details of this on page 6. And of course, you also have pictures of the major political parties and members of the Peace Committee done in the front page of the Blueprint. Supreme Court upholds Adeleke as Osun PDP candidate. You find that on page 18. Terrorists killed Niger monarch, 14 subjects, slay farmer in Kaduna. Kidnap 20. Impose 12 million levy on Birnin Gwari villages. 3 soldiers, custom officer lost to attack in Zamfara and Katsina. And saboteurs escape. 5 adopters escape, 11 released after ransom. We have other stories there. FCT set to crush 1,000 impounded motorcycles, urges Okada riders to invest in other ventures. And NECO releases 2022 SSCE results, candidates record 10% drop. SEC exposes new rule on Sharia advisory services. And hiking rates fails to halt Naira fall, hits new low of 734 to $1. Nigeria loses 6.272 trillion to oil theft annually. And Gbajabiamila urges ASU to end strike amid negotiation. And finally, directly below the nameplate, we have PDP crisis get messier. Arakbaja, Dan Obi, and 3 other National Working Committee members return 151.2 million pro-IU bribe. It is a housing allowance, not a bribe. And that's according to the party. These are the major headlines on the front page of Blueprint.
On the Daily Sun this morning, amid Buhari's caution, presidential candidates sign peace accord. Shatima stands in for Tinubu, place Nigeria above regional sectional interests. This is according to President Muhammadu Buhari. And then you'd find other stories as well. 2023 removed structures retarding Nigeria's progress. This is according to Peter Obi. Tension as soldiers invade Anambra community, kill one, injure others. And that story is on page 4 on the Daily Sun. APC withdrawal of letter to Tinubu tears NWC apart. Members want Buhari presidential candidate served. You find other stories as well on page 8, page 13, and page 30 on the Daily Sun. PDP crisis takes new twist as 4 NWC members refund 122.4 million allegedly given to them by IU. INEC threatens parties with fresh sanctions over hate speech campaign funding. NECO releases 2022 SSC internal results, record 70% pass in Maths, English. And then Supreme Court affirms Osun governor-elect valid PDP candidate. That story is on page 30 on the Daily Sun.
Moving on to First News newspaper, one of the recent additions to the tabloid family in Nigeria. Staying with political activities in the country, PDP quakes again. NYC members return IU's mysterious 93.6 million ledgers. 28.8 million paid into my account. Shocking. Surprising. National Vice Chairman South. Money now subject of malicious media report. National Vice Chairman Southwest. People now insinuating it's a bribe from IU to buy our support in his fight against Wike, National Women Leader. I have reservations about money transferred into my account. Deputy National Chairman South. It appears this PDP crisis is not going away anytime soon. And we have other servings there on the front page. 2023 presidential candidate sign peace accord. Obi, Atiku present, Tinubu absent. APC chair Adamu attacks Tinubu over campaign council composition. Party says letters fake, not from Adamu. Peace agreement with Jonathan contributed to peaceful elections in 2015. Buhari. It's interesting to hear that coming from him. Tinubu's absent as peace pact sparks outrage. PDP primary, Supreme Court okays Adeleke's candidacy. INEC reads riot act to parties on campaign spending, hate speech. Release Kanu before it is too late, IPOB warns FG. 7-month strike, reps meet with ASU. NECO releases result of 2022 SSEE. Bandit deserves no mercy, requires death penalty. That is according to Metawali. And Yobe Nod, Lawal accepts fate, says I won't appeal judgment. Campaigns, Buhari cautions Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, others against hate speech. And the Catholic Church leaves ban on controversial cleric Mbaka's adoration ministry. Interesting servants there on the front page of the First News newspaper. We will now take a short breather. When we return, we will have our in-house analysts ready to serve you the details of these interesting headlines from the front page of the national newspapers this morning. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
Welcome back. We are now being joined by somebody called him my lookalike brother, but I'm not sure if my pocket is as deep as his. The editor, 21st Century Chronicle, Nuruddin Abdallah. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Sadi. My pleasure.
I wasn't wrong when I said my pocket is not as deep as yours.
That's the subject of fact check.
Welcome. A number of activities on the front pages look very similar across platforms this morning. And it has to do with the biggest event of yesterday, the peace accord. And we saw frontline runners, political actors ahead of next year's presidential elections at that venue, except for one. But how significant, you also read, I'm sure, the president's comment, but how significant has this peace accord come to be, in the annals of our own political activity?
Yes, from 2015, when the Peace Committee chaired by Bishop Mati Kuka and General Abdulsalam Abubakar, came into the limelight. We saw what they did. But most significantly, in 2015, a sitting president was on the ballot. So the stakes were high. The tension was high. But now, the sitting president is not on the ballot. So comparatively speaking, the tension, will not be that. It's just like when Obasanjo was seeking re-election in 2003. You understand? Compared to 2007, when he was just going. You understand? So that is it. It's significant to an extent whereby, they sign in, even though the signature has no any legal. It's just symbolic. It's just symbolic. And what they have been doing, has replicated itself in some states, particularly fear of violence. In 2011, what happened? When Jonathan was contesting, I think that was the first election. I know the violence that erupted after he was declared as winner. So by and large, I think it's a very good development. But like I said, even though after all, one of the key actors was absent visibly yesterday. He was represented by Saron and met Senator
I understand he was having some important meeting in London.
Yes. I don't know that. The party people, maybe. He was unavoidably absent. That's what we learned. So maybe.
Due to pressing national engagement, I'm sure.
So it's significant, at least symbolically. The key actors, we are seen in public, committing to the fact that, okay, they will accept the verdict of the transparent and fair elections. They will resort to courts or tribunals if eventually they lost their polls, they won't go to the street, there won't be mass action. So I think that is the significance of the Salami Kuka committee. That is.
Okay. Well, former President Goodluck Jonathan said in a statement that we are at a critical stage. What do you think that his statement could mean?
Yes, critical in the sense that look at all the variables. Look at security, for instance. Look at the economy. So I think that is it. And not only that, again, we have 18 presidential candidates. But even the media, zero mostly on 4. And most significantly, the race is between the 2 of them. That's natural. It's between the PDP and APC. And look at the 2 flag bearers. In Hausa, we call it, when we kids, part and the end. So they are just slogging out. This is their last fight. I don't see Wazir and Adamawa contesting again, particularly if he loses this one in the next 4 years. Or the Asuaju that is having is a very important national engagement in Europe, contesting in the next 4 years for so many reasons, particularly age. You understand? So that is why they have deployed all their arsenals to win their party's nominations at all costs. Yeah, you remember, that of PDP has not yet settled yet. Even that of APC, you saw what the letter that was written, no, it was not authorized, it was a draft. In all the 2 contending parties, So they are big gladiators who have been nursing this ambition of leading the country, and they have been cultivating contacts across the country, and they have been amassing wealth, and now they have deployed them full throttle. So like we say in Hausa, it's part and the end. You understand?
You will need to meet Louis to give you the interpretations of that. And it's very interesting, pardon the end. It should be a lexicon in our own English. It sort of typifies what this is about. It's a battle between the gladiators. And we hope to see very interesting and peaceful ending to that. But before we leave this issue, I would also like to draw your attention to the comments by a former leader, Abdusalami Abubakar, on the place of fake news and misinformation. And therefore, that also sort of, draw my mind to whether this peace accord was just supposed to be about presidential candidates. And I think something should happen that brings all the media houses, including the so-called new media players, into some kind of understanding of what role they could also play in bringing about a peaceful election. Because those fake results we see, those quotes that are allegedly attributed to people who never said them, and all of those could actually cause damages before they are reined in. What's your perception about what Abdusalami said?
Yes, I think it's beyond what the former leader was saying. Fake news does not emanate from media houses. It emanates from the political players. That is it. And it has become a recurring dismal in our political ecosystem over the years because there is no consequence. When I'm losing a particular poll, I have my social media warriors. Just, I maintain them by 3,000, 5,000 per month with a 50,000 Android. They will dish out anything to cause disaffection. And there is no law that deals with that specifically. And most, again, it's more or less it's a class case because you can't pinpoint who. Yeah, it's just like rigging an election. There is a provision. If you rig an election, if you steal a ballot box or this or that, there are. But people are even calling for a tribunal or special court that will try those involved in that. No, the laws are there. We saw, let me give an example. During the Beloso election, we saw what happened. We saw the footages. Security personnel, their official regalia, using choppers and what have you. But nobody was held into account. So that is, so I think maybe what we need to do is actually to make those laws bite now. Let's start with examples. Mr. A has done this, drag him to court, prove beyond reasonable doubt that he has committed such offense, and let him face the full wrath of the law. If we do that, for instance, then maybe it will send a signal. But fake news, those social media warriors are not on their own. They are being activated from the back end. They are working for, and it's clear, who they are working for.
True.
And the pact they sign, it has no any legal bite. So you can't hold anybody responsible. You understand? So I think we need to actually have laws that can bite. Not just, look at the Electoral Act. There are penalties for all manner of electoral offenses. But nobody was ever brought into account. And particularly from even statements made by politicians.
That's right.
It's a fight to finish, it's a do or die, You remember the generals, something, Kerejini, Birijini stuff. All these things, when you contextualize them, actually, what do you call it? They put more tension and pressure on the
system.
Polity.
Very interesting. Now let's move away from this. Still talking politics, but this time around from a whole different dimension. On the Daily Trust newspaper, there's a story about Are You Bribed Us with Millions? 6 PDP NWC members alleged.
That's very funny. When I saw the letters flying, it's a continuation of the crisis bedeviling the PDP. But I think the crisis principally has ended. You know, I said it here weeks ago, that these same NWC members that are returning this money, they are writing letters to return these monies, we are part of the NEC. 390 members of PDP NEC met in Abuja and passed a vote of confidence in IU. All those present, no abstention, no counter, you understand. The question you should ask again, when did the PDP pay this money into their accounts? Was it yesterday? No. Was it last week? No. So, if I put it this way, you know, all these are parts of the last kicks of a dying horse, if you put it that way. Governor Wiki has completely lost out. The PDP has decided that they can go without him because they have been stopped. The election, the primaries took place in May. But because of all this media, you know, all these razzmatazz, you know, all this, he stopped them, they were stopped. But they have decided they are moving on, and they did. So it is not surprising to see even more horrible things than this. Yeah, you understand. And again, instead of writing the national leadership of the party, they should write EFCC. One of them was even, the funniest of them was, when he learned of it, he scrolled through his bank alerts. He is not Otodela or Dangote
That would not know
that 24 million will touch your account without you knowing. When he did he alert his banks?
Maybe he has unlimited overdraft rights on his cards, so he can draw.
And I don't think this will take them
anywhere.
Anywhere. The PDP has decided. The major PDP has won. They have moved on. They have moved on. So, you know, most of them, they are the South, Deputy National Chairman South, Deputy Chairman South, woman leader, you know. Well, I think what maybe going forward, they should just resign so that the PDP will replace them.
Interesting. Interesting. They probably don't need rent again because they have rent coming from somewhere else. Still staying with politics, your friend, if I am permitted to use that word, yesterday said he's no longer going to contest the statements of the courts that has confirmed the legitimacy of Machina. That's talking about the Senate president, which probably, we are not sure now, brings an end to his marriage with the National Assembly of over 24 years. That's more than half of the time you spend in the civil service, if you like. But did that statement of his come to you as a surprise? Because the moment the court made those pronouncements 2 days ago, we were all thinking it is time we see that they elevate this fight to a higher court. What do you make of his pronouncement?
I think some people praise him for that, but I don't think he should be praised. Bearing in mind the pronouncements, the threats by the national chairman of the APC, Abdullah Adam, to the winner, as declared the day before today by the courts, Sharif Machina. You know, with what he did yesterday, he ate the humble pie yesterday, and with his pronouncements in the past, that it is not over until it is over. That was what he was saying. And I'm not going to say that, you know, it is karma, because the Lowell National Assembly is the architect of the Electoral Act. And unfortunately, and what I think it was former Senate President Ken Namani.
Yeah.
He said that don't make laws to attack for specific persons or for specific scenarios, because he may be a victim You remember Buhari rejected the new electoral act two
Twice.
times. But they insisted. Lowell was caught napping on two planks.
Two fronts.
One, what they normally do is, he thought that maybe we are using the former electoral act as amended 2010 electoral act, which allows party to replace the candidate at any given time. That was why when he was dragged into the presidential race as the anointed candidate of the APC, he didn't make other plans down there. We saw what Tambuwal did. There was a placeholder. We saw what Umahi did. He had a placeholder. His younger brother won the election, the Senate primaries. As serving, SSD resigned and picked the governorship ticket of PDP in Bauchi. They all did because they were not sure of what they get there. But he did not. That is one. Thinking that the party can bulldoze its way at any given
Could it
time.
not be a function of the fact that he was really sure he was going to be the presidential candidate, and so there was really no need to making alternative plan would mean signaling to those people that he's also not sure of what they had told him in the secrets?
But
because I mean, he was pronounced as the anointed candidate.
My understanding is this: if actually he did that, that means that his 23 years experience at the National Assembly didn't help him. How many people were given that guarantee? One of them is in court now, Professor Wajoba, the Junior Minister of Education. He was given assurances by the villa. In fact, he resigned before. Where was Jonathan? Former President Jonathan, African Development Bank President, additional.
Central Bank
Governor, were all assured by the people that assured Lowell. I don't think, I stand to be corrected, that President Buhari, because it is not it's not his method, that okay, Mr. Senate President, you are the anointed candidate. No, he did it through a third party, the APC leadership, and that was even the mistake. They didn't read the political scene at that time. When, as reported, when the president called Abdullah Adamu, said that, okay, I want Ahmad Lawan to be the consensus candidate. With Abdullah Adamu's experience, he should have advised the president, sir, the political scenario now is not conducive for that. Mr. President, you can pick a candidate from the south. But he didn't do that. He came, made the announcement. Immediately, 8 members of the NWC countered him. Because there are so many things against Ahmad Lawan as even a presidential candidate. And you know, he was so naive, despite his 23 years at the National Assembly, to believe it. No, it is not over until it is over.
We have to wrap up here. Quite very interesting, and I really would love for us to take a look at some more, but because of time, we have to wrap up at this moment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming.
Okay, most welcome.
This conversation would continue definitely. We have 6 months to continue to look at this.
Definitely.
Have a nice weekend ahead.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. This is where we draw the curtains on the newspaper review. We'll see you at the top of the hour where the show continues. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that